Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I'm beyond pumped about what we're digging into today. We are looking at a completely unprecedented 60 days scientific experiment that actually tracked the human body using the most accurate device on the planet, an MRI machine. We're doing a deep dive into the raw data behind one of the most stubborn, frustrating, and honestly heavily debated topics in the entire health and fitness world. Yep, we're talking about belly fat. So settle in, because the numbers we are about to uncover are going to completely flip how you approach your workouts from here on out.
It's kind of the ultimate fitness mystery, isn't it? I mean, for decades, experts have basically sworn up and down that spot reduction, the idea that you can just pick and choose exactly where you burn fat off your body, is a total myth. The rule was always that you just lose it from everywhere, eventually. But recently, new science, specifically this one major study from 2023, started proving the exact opposite. They suggested that targeting stubborn belly fat might actually be totally possible if you use a really specific workout routine. But hey, we all know that a study on paper is one thing, and the real world is a whole different beast. So we really need to know, is this just another random fitness fad, or is spot reduction an actual biological possibility?
Okay, so let's break down the theory here. To really understand how spot reduction might work, we have to wrap our heads around this absolutely crucial concept, fat mobilization. See, before your body can actually burn fat, it first has to unlock it and release it from the fat cell right into your bloodstream. And the biological mechanism behind this is super fascinating. When you train a specific muscle, blood flow to that exact area drastically increases. More blood flow means more fat mobilization. So theoretically, if you train your abs incredibly hard, you should flood your midsection with blood, which helps unlock and mobilize the fat stored specifically right over your belly. Makes sense, right? To see if this mechanism actually works in the real world, let's meet the test subjects for our 60-day experiment, Dennis and Vicky. Dennis is starting out at 17.5% total body fat. He lifts weights about 4 days a week, eats decently well, but he has struggled with stubborn belly fat literally his entire life. Then we have Vicky. She's sitting at 31.8% total body fat, and unlike Dennis, she relies completely on cardio workouts. Neither of them have been able to crack the code to getting a lean midsection, and these totally different starting stats and gym habits, they're going to make the data we're about to look at incredibly revealing.
So what exactly did they do? Let's talk about Phase 1. For the first 30 days, they followed the exact protocol from that 2023 spot reduction study. Every single other day, they had to do 25 minutes of moderate intensity cardio. Why the cardio? Because unlocking the fat with ab exercises is really only half the battle. You have to actually do cardio to burn that mobilized fat off. Otherwise, it just goes right back into storage. So immediately after that cardio session, they did 4 grueling sets of weighted crunches for the upper abs, followed by 4 sets of reverse crunches for the lower abs. No excuses, every other day. Now, during this first phase, both Dennis and Vicky were definitely feeling the burn, but they quickly noticed something. The lower belly was absolutely refusing to budge. Why is the lower belly basically an impenetrable fortress for both men and women? Well, it all comes down to 2 types of receptors inside your fat cells. Beta receptors accelerate fat release. You can think of them as the green light. But alpha-2 receptors, they slow fat release to an absolute crawl. They're the red light. And here's the kicker. The lower belly has a massively high ratio of alpha-2 receptors. It is biologically wired to hold on to fat way longer than your arms, your legs, or your shoulders. A couple of weeks in, Dennis was sending in daily photos, totally convinced the spot reduction was working. He felt like his abs were really starting to pop. But guys, we have to talk about a massive warning here. Beware the influencer illusion. 2 photos taken on the exact same day can look drastically different simply by stepping under some harsh overhead gym lighting. It casts shadows that make even a tiny bit of definition look like a shredded six-pack. This optical illusion is exactly why an experiment like this simply cannot rely on mirror selfies or pinch tests. Only precise, medical-grade MRI measurements can tell us if those fat cells are literally shrinking.
All right, let's get into the Phase 1 reality check.
Moment of truth. Did all those hours of cardio and thousands of crunches actually do anything? After 30 days, 375 minutes of cardio, and 15 intense ab sessions, Dennis and Vicky went back into the MRI machine. And the results? Absolutely eye-opening. Let's start with Vicky. She stepped on the scale, saw she had lost 5 pounds, and was thrilled. But then we actually looked at the MRI data, and it is a massive wake-up call. Of those 5 pounds she lost, a staggering 60% was lean muscle mass. Only 40% was actual fat. Because Vicky was only doing cardio in a caloric deficit, her body was literally cannibalizing her own muscle for energy. Her total body fat percentage barely even moved, dropping a microscopic amount from 31.8% to 31.5%. This right here is the absolute trap of the cardio-only approach.
Okay, so what about Dennis? Did the targeted spot reduction work for him, since he was actually lifting weights too? Well, the MRI revealed that Dennis's belly fat dropped by a devastatingly low 0.3%. Seriously, almost nothing. In fact, most of the tiny bit of fat he did lose came from his arms and his hips, not his belly. The harsh reality hit him pretty hard. Doing hundreds of crunches did absolutely nothing to target the fat covering his midsection. The spot reduction theory, at least in this 30-day real-world test, was a total bust.
But hey, interestingly enough, those ab exercises weren't entirely useless. While the spot reduction totally failed to burn the fat, the MRI showed that underneath that stubborn layer, they were building some massive muscle. Dennis's abs grew by a crazy 20%, and Vicky's grew by 15%. And you know, this perfectly explains that influencer illusion from earlier. Their abdominal muscles were literally getting bigger and pushing out against the fat layer, making them look slightly more visible in good lighting. But the fat itself? Yeah, still there.
Okay, time for phase 2, the fix.
So if endless cardio destroys your muscle and endless crunches don't burn belly fat, what actually works? Well, for the next 30 days, everything from phase 1 was thrown straight in the trash. The new rules were strict and they were totally revamped. Step 1. Track every single calorie. Their daily target was roughly their body weight in pounds multiplied by 12. Step 2. Eat a fist-sized portion of lean protein with every single meal to protect that precious muscle mass. And step 3, and this is the real shocker, mandatory strength training, but absolutely zero cardio allowed. None. Also, zero direct ab training. They were literally forbidden from doing a single crunch. This phase was all about testing the raw power of diet and heavy weights.
Now, of course, completely changing your lifestyle overnight is incredibly tough. And Vicky's start to phase 2 was hilariously relatable. She went to a party with exactly 500 calories left in her daily budget. She thought she did perfectly, just tracking some cucumber rolls. But then, well, as she freely admits, she had a beer, a few slices of pizza, literally 1,000 calories of dim sum, and even ate cake mid-workout that same day. It just goes to show you how insanely fast hidden calories can absolutely derail your progress if you aren't completely honest with your tracking.
And honestly, that story brilliantly illustrates the single most crucial lesson in fat loss. You simply cannot out-train a bad diet. Dennis learned this the hard way too, when he grabbed a self-serve matcha drink. He tracked it, realized it was 300 calories, and realized it took him maybe 5 minutes to drink the whole thing. But to burn off those exact same 300 calories, Vicky would have to do an entire hour of steep incline walking. Since cardio was completely banned in phase 2, they were forced to realize that managing what actually goes into your mouth is infinitely more efficient than trying to burn it all off later. So, to actually stick to their strict calorie deficits without starving, they had to get clever. They developed some brilliant real-world diet hacks. Dennis, who was a massive foodie, started asking for heavy sauces, like hollandaise, on the side. That alone saved him up to 400 calories a meal. Vicky swapped out calorie-dense salmon for lean whitefish and shrimp, which allowed her to eat a massive, super-filling plate of food for the exact same amount of calories. And my personal favorite? At parties, Dennis started drinking plain tea out of a whiskey glass. Nobody asked him why he wasn't drinking, and he saved hundreds of liquid calories. Absolutely genius.
All right, here we go. The final MRI results.
After 30 days of meticulous tracking, eating high protein, and lifting heavy weights with zero cardio and zero crunches, the 60-day experiment finally came to a close. It was time to look at the highly anticipated final MRI data. Would this heavy lifting and diet-focused approach finally crack the code to their stubborn belly fat? Let's look at Vicky first. Remember in phase 1, with all that crazy cardio, her belly fat only dropped by 3%. In phase 2, her belly fat plummeted by a massive 30%. 30%! And even more incredibly, because she swapped the treadmill for the weight room, her overall body fat dropped all the way down to 27.5%, and she actually gained 3 pounds of solid lean muscle. She totally transformed her body composition without doing a single sit-up.
And Dennis? The guy whose belly fat absolutely refused to budge with spot reduction? By dialing in his diet and focusing entirely on his lifting, his belly fat plummeted by an astonishing 26.3%. His total overall body fat dropped all the way down to a super lean 14.4%. He lost 5 pounds on the scale, and almost all of it was pure, stubborn fat. It was a complete and total victory for the kitchen and the weight room over those endless crunches.
But the MRI revealed one final, pretty crazy biological twist regarding their actual abdominal muscles. Because they didn't do a single crunch for 30 whole days, we really needed to know. Did their abs shrink? For Vicky, who was a complete beginner, the indirect stimulus from doing heavy squats and deadlifts was actually enough to maintain the 15% ab growth she got in phase 1. But for Dennis, a veteran lifter, heavy squats just weren't enough. His abs actually shrank by 16%, going right back to their original size. It proves that while diet absolutely burns the fat, experienced lifters still need direct ab work to keep the muscle thick and visible.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway of this explainer. Spot reduction might be a myth, and endless cardio might just be a trap that actively eats away your muscle. But the truth we found here is incredibly empowering. A precise diet combined with heavyweight training is practically a cheat code for destroying stubborn belly fat. So, my question to you is this. Are you ready to ditch the thousands of crunches, finally step off that treadmill, and pick up the weights? Thank you guys so much for joining me to explore this incredible data, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.